What's up, everybody? CP and SJ here from Every Day We're Covering, and we are barreling down on the 2025-26 college football season, and we felt it was time to give you a little bit of insight on the two teams that we have an affinity for and follow. Obviously, I think maybe we've done our best over time with the show to prove to you that we try to be as objective as we can be. There's bias involved there, no doubt. We're probably going to be, if you're gonna take what we have to say and go one way with it, maybe push a little bit under to what we're going to give you because we have that lean a little bit. But we're going to do our best to be objective about what we think both Iowa State and Nebraska are going to do here in this upcoming college football season. And SJ, of course, we're both just excited that we have the opportunity to watch our teams play again. Everybody loves college football, and especially, of course, when you're watching the team that you always loved.
Well, I mean, two things here, I guess, with this is first off, we want to be right. So
Yeah.
that kind of comes down to, especially when we're talking about trying to win some money and give you guys some guidance, and hopefully we're steering you in the right direction. So we're not just going to be like, you're going to go 12-0. There's no way we can lose. That's not going to happen. So that's the first thing, and then also just being there's a lot of variables. So this is, whatever, it's August, just started, so a lot of things can happen. So we're just going to be as accurate as possible with the information we have at this time and do the best we can to see what we think could play out. And again, these are, I wouldn't say best case scenarios, but these are factoring in that your starting quarterback doesn't break his arm, or your best left tackle doesn't tear an ACL. So that always factors in too. But we're going to do the just judging all things considered, this is what potentially could happen. And I think we've shown over the course of like you said, on the audio version, we're almost 100 episodes. We're trying to be, we've both worked in the business, so it's the fandom is there, but it's not the end all be all. So this is more of a an informed observer, I guess would be a good way to term it. Like we have our favorites, but also we've both been in the journalism business, whether it be on the radio, the print side, the online side. So that factors in as well.
Well, and when we're talking about helping you try to make plays and make decisions too, when it comes to this discussion, for the most part, the one thing that you can take away from this is that over/under total. We're going to look at that and kind of tell you where we think maybe that'll hit. That's probably the more broad thing that we can be a little bit more accurate on here at this point. Like you said, there's tons of factors and tons of things that are going to happen down the road, and you just never know. We always talk about every week's an adventure, but we're trying to project kind of that season total and how we think on a whole the team could be and what they can accomplish.
Well, then we mentioned the injury thing too. It's just like at this point, there's not a lot of lines out there either. Even wherever you want to go, no matter who your favorite book is, or you want to go offshore, it's a sport where things change so much. You can't be we can't be expecting a line in week 9 when we're not even through the preseason camp yet. So remember that as well, and we'll adjust and change as the season progresses. But we want to at least be as transparent as possible and be like, here's what we think at this point in time. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yep. And the two things that you really probably can do for your team right now are, if you want to look at an odds for winning a national championship, you're going to get that ridiculous. That's out there. And then that over/under total. That's about the only thing at this point you're probably going to find. Maybe the opening game if you're lucky right now. So obviously, as the season goes, we'll take a deeper dive look into a lot of other things. But this is kind of what we're looking at season as a whole. SJ, we're going to start with you here with your squad there in Nebraska. Obviously, both of us come from, that's the other part of it too. I think I would think that most people probably would consider us both diehard fans and also reasonable fans, because we both know we have factions of our fan bases that aren't that. But the other thing too is, we were both born and raised in these states. So we've been around these programs for a long time, know where it comes from and what it is now. And so that's what I'm going to kind of lead with there. But obviously Nebraska, on a better track trajectory, so to speak. Getting to a bowl game is a big accomplishment. Turning that around. Where do you think this is going here in 2025?
All right, so there's several things I'll touch on here as far as like why I think the season could play out the way I'm going to outline ahead here. But the first thing is, yeah, just getting over that hump and mentioning the audio version. I hope everybody watching here listens to here in the days or pre-ham, or go check it out if you haven't yet. But just getting over that hump was a big deal. I know it's like it doesn't seem like, especially considering like, and that's what you said, like born and raised, like it's definitely been some growing pains going through my life, because when I was a kid, it's like losing one game was like, what the hell happened? And I'm willing to admit that was the case, but I don't feel that same way now.
Yeah.
But at one point that was the case. So you just adjust as things change. But that was, I think, a big deal, just to not only just like mute that talking point, but just to kind of try to advance and get back to being the program, at least where you're contending at least for some championship or whatever level that may be. But so looking at the schedule overall, I guess I can start with the over under. Most books have it 7.5, around there. That's to me, that almost seems like kind of like a cop out. Seems kind of weak. It's like you looked across the board, and any team that's like within like maybe your top 40, 45, even 50, it's like that's like the baseline number. Yeah. And I know, like, especially in recent years, made a lot of money off that number, because they've kind of had some hype here and there, and also some years where maybe they shouldn't have been that high number, and then some years where it's like, well, you could see it happening, like maybe just hit that 7 like last year, but that would have been with the bowl game. And typically you get the regular season number, not including postseason. So remember that as well. Yeah. But this year it's the same there. And I do like the overs, but I'm more of like 8 to 9. And I did go 9 on this schedule, and I'll kind of clear that up. But 8 wouldn't surprise me. But I could even see as high as like 10 potentially happening. But I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a certainty. You could see it with the way the schedule, because I mean, it's a hard thing to find. And also it's like, how do you know that your schedule is this tough or not this tough? I know, like a team like Wisconsin, you can't really argue that schedule. They got a hell of a murderer's row coming their way this season. But like, as far as like, if you just have your typical conference plus a decent non-conference schedule, it's like, how good is it? Because you don't really know until the end of the year if is that a tough schedule or is it not. But of the numbers I've found, like CBS Sports, I believe, ranked it like 10th in the Big Ten out of 18. So like middle of the road, anywhere between like 40th and 60th. Kind of in there. So you wouldn't consider that like a tough schedule. I mean, I don't think that's like, I don't think I'm like reaching there to be like, oh, the people, this is, I don't know, it could be a lot harder than you think. But, and part of that is, I mean, you got the opener against Cincinnati, which was, a 5-win outfit last year, so didn't make a bowl game. I know the Big 12's a decently tough conference, but they weren't exactly in the mix for anything last year. And I think they have a couple transfers, and the running back from Wisconsin, I believe, went down there. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game by any stretch. But being in Kansas City, I'd be hard pressed to find that that's not going to be more of a hometown crowd. And then after that, you have the next 4 at home, including a Michigan team, which is, for all reports, is not going to have their head coach for that game, and a freshman quarterback. But you got to like those odds. But at the same time, that was the game that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the number on that one, because that's one that I have seen out there, and it's 3.5 for Michigan. So I picked a loss by 3. So I mean, give me some credit here. I'm being legitimate here. I have a 20-23 loss. That'd be the first loss of the season. So I'm at 3-1 after that game. I think they roll off a couple after that to get to but the games that are a little tricky here for me, and this could be swing games, is they do have back-to-back road games, and it's not the toughest of competition, but at Maryland and then at Minnesota, but there's a Friday night game at Minnesota. So it's a little tricky there. And Minnesota, for whatever reason, has played well and had their number a little bit. So that one's one to watch. So I'm a little iffy on that one. They follow it up with a home game against Northwestern. So at that point, I figure there'll be, could be a 1-loss team, perhaps a 2-loss team. So that one's it's kind of give or take that back-to-back road trips. I do have them losing at USC, and I don't necessarily think USC is like the great, amazing, like across the board, like put together team, but they have put in a lot of talent. Of course, Lincoln Rallies, a lot of people want to call him a quarterback whisperer, quarterback guru, whatever. So, I mean, and last year they lost the game against them that they had no business losing. So that one, I mean, I could see that one going either way. So that I did put that one as a loss though, but within I 24-27. I'll put the graphic up. We'll do one for each of our picks here with scores. I don't want to, we don't need to go through every game now, but so I do think they rebound against UCLA this year, the team in LA. I think they'll go ahead and get them and knock them out. And then, but the game that I'm just like, you try to be positive and like you don't want to be like, but that Penn State game is going to be freaking. And I don't think this will be the case, but I wouldn't be surprised. But if that's a night game, that's going to be hell. Especially that's just a shit place to go to, no matter what. And you put that in the fact, and then considering that though, that's the second to last game of the season.
Yeah.
And if they play the Black Friday, and then it's a short week for that, so I mean. Go try to win it. I'm not on the team. I don't have to have the mindset of win every game, but I'm that one's kind of certainty of I have them within a couple scores there, a couple touchdowns, but I don't think it's gonna, and that's probably best case scenario, like a 30-17 loss is how I marked it. That's probably like if we play pretty well and maybe they have a turnover or two. I don't think we're quite to that level yet. Nebraska's not. So, but I do have them kind of getting that that evil demon there on the Black Friday. I got them a 21-9 win over Iowa. So in 9-3 is where I got them. I could see 8-4, like I said, and then I could even see maybe if that Michigan game goes right, considering that it's at home, they'd have a freshman quarterback, the coach isn't there, maybe they get to 10. But I don't want to stretch it too far. I'll play a little, try to keep my Kool-Aid down and go 9, but 8's not that surprising to me. But honestly, I think that'd be a pretty decent regular season, all things considered.
Yeah, and I'm obviously somebody that grew up not liking your program because we played each other at the time. That's changed obviously now. And I spent a lot of time in the state of Nebraska, so that maybe softened me a little bit. But I'm, looking at you're not wrong though. Looking at the schedule, like there's, I mean, aside from that road trip to Penn State, like, is there a murderer's game out there? I don't see it either. I agree. I think you're spot on in that 8-9 scenario there. To me, looking at who the opponents are and kind of where the teams are at too. I think that makes a big difference. That there's a couple that maybe, like you said, could be a little bit more, troublesome, or just one of the jumps up and bites you kind of scenarios. That Minnesota game certainly being one of them that's not ideal. And then even the that back-to-back there with Michigan State, Maryland right after Michigan, you just never know. Like, one of those things could be a little bit iffy. Not that I think those teams are great, but maybe good enough in a certain day to be trouble. But yeah, I think you're right on there with an 8-9. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Well, and it could be a situation too where, like, maybe you get the Michigan, then you got a hangover loss to Michigan State, or and then, like I said, injuries. Like, who knows? Like, so that could factor in as well. But I mean, I know there's a lot of I don't know. It's almost like you kind of been burned before, so a lot of people within the fan base or even just media that cover it are a little bit scared to go out there. But I mean, I just got to look at the what's on paper and what looks that's what it appears to me, and that's all I'm going off of. Like I said, could be wrong. Who knows what could happen, but as far as just like judging it as like surface stuff, that's kind of how I see it playing out.
Well, and I saw that I don't know where it came from, that I saw earlier today too. Like, it sucks from your perspective, but yeah, they're the only team, I think, within the last 5 years that has always been under that total that came out at the beginning of the season. So that's hard to get your mind over, for sure. And it makes sense for a lot of people why they'd be apprehensive about that. But yeah, I think certainly have turned, a little bit of a corner, as far as going in the right direction. And that schedule, yeah, is a difference maker. Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at with the Nebraska. So We'll flip it over here to my side of the Missouri River, I guess, here, and go over to Ames, Iowa. Iowa State. Obviously, no better time in the world for an Iowa State fan to drink the Kool-Aid. You're coming off of the best season that you've ever had. Things feel good.
Pop Tart bowl, man. You still,
Pop Tart
yeah,
bowl.
you're still got that toaster still steaming.
Exactly. Still tasting that. I think was it the wild berry. I can't remember what they toasted. But yeah, still tasting that on the tongue. Beat some pretty decent teams, and of course, yeah, the game had its weird wrinkle there with Ward sitting out the second half, but it's always kind of fun to stick it to a team that decides to do something like that. So, and what a lot of people consider was a hot team at the time too. So that was a good win. There's I really struggled honestly as obviously, like I said, the influence of what happened last year. As a fan, you want things to continue to be that great and to have another terrific season. I think the potential is there. I don't know where it's going to fall, is how far close they get to that again. I will tell you right now, as I went through my sheet and the games, I've got 10-2 marked out on my sheet here, but I fully believe it's going to be 9-3. I just don't know what that other game is going to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that honestly right now. So that's what I'm predicting. Do I think it could even be lower than that? Certainly. I'm not sitting here believing that it's going to be a 100% lock that they're going to be a good over the 500 mark team again. Because I know better. It's Ames isn't a place that you're always guaranteed to do a lot of things. You got to win a lot of games that are close. That's what they did last year, and that's why they had such a great season. So they're going to have to do that again. But I'll give you, I guess, my reasoning of why I got to where I'm at, and then the games that I think that are going to be the ones that maybe turn that I can't tell you which one it is. So starting off the season, obviously a very interesting scenario. You go over to Dublin, Ireland, to take on a team that you play that's just right down the road in Kansas State, and is a historic rival there with what we like to call Farmageddon between the two programs with the land grant schools. Always is a fun game. Like these two teams play good games. There really hasn't been a whole lot of blowouts either way. Couple years ago, Iowa State had one hell of a day in a snowstorm in Manhattan, and that was a big exception to the rule. That doesn't happen very often. Usually, this is a touchdown or field goal type of football game, and I fully expect that's what this is going to be again. I'm worried, obviously, because historically Iowa State hasn't played well early in the season. That has always been a problem, and this is a Kansas State team that does have some talent, and I think they're going to be better than they were last year. Iowa State loses two very good wide receivers that both went to the NFL to the same team, oddly enough. Yeah, we're big parts of the offense, so that's a big question mark to overcome. But I guess I'm leaning towards Iowa State actually winning this game, just because I think that Rocco Becht is better than Avery Johnson. Now, a lot of people probably disagree with me on that front, and I definitely, K-State fans, they drank that Kool-Aid before he even stepped on campus. Rocco's proven that he's been in those close games and won them and figured out how to do it. And I think he's going to do that here again. It's going to be different. It's going to be with the tight ends. It's going to take a while for those other wide receivers to figure out their place in the offense. But Carson Hansen's back healthy in the backfield running. So I think they eke this one out. I think it's going to be a field goal, just like it was last year. Georgia Tech kicking a field goal to win the game. I think that's what Iowa State's going to do to win this one. Now, certainly this is one of them that I had that caveat that could go the other way. It very well could be a loss to open up the season. That's how I'm starting it. South Dakota, the next game, I think that's a win. You go back home, you're comfortable again. Could have a little bit of hiccup here and there. They do that against some smaller teams sometimes, but ultimately pull away, and that's what they did last year in their game against North Dakota. So I expect that again. And then you've got Iowa coming to town, and always a tough game. It historically has not gone Iowa State's way at home in either team's game at home recently in this series. So that's what makes me apprehensive. But the reason that I'm going to lean a little bit Iowa State in this game is because I think they have more returning experience, and it's going to be the first road test for Gronowski at quarterback for Iowa to come into another hostile place, and certainly in a type of game that he hasn't necessarily played in before. Yeah, they've played good schools, and they're he knows what good competition is. I don't doubt that, but hasn't played in a lot of these types of atmospheres where it's going to be as raucous as it will be in Ames. So I think Iowa State pulls out another one. Again, a field goal type of game, because that's what these games always are too. Well, just like last year with the long one to win it at the end, I think that's where it goes. And this is where I kind of got to myself and I'm like, man, am I really drinking the Kool-Aid? Because the way the schedule is, like, I think if they get through that and do win those 3 games, I think they're going to win a few more before they lose one. So it's going to be kind of a good start to the season like it was last year. They go to Arkansas State, a little bit weary, but they beat up on them last year at home just big time. It seemed like the gap was way too big there for that to close that far in a year. So I'm going to go them to win that game by a couple scores at least. And then they come back home to play Arizona, a team that absolutely just like did not meet expectations at all last year. And they lost their best player in McMillan at the wide receiver spot. So I don't expect them to like make this huge, massive jump. They lost their coach too. So that's a scenario where I think Iowa State wins by a score. And then you go to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just they're a team that's gonna, to me, they don't fit in to the conference well. They're not going to be one of those teams that's able to hang on in this Power 4 world and compete with everybody year after year. Iowa State played pretty well against them last year, and I think they do that again, especially, having that proof of last year being able to do it. Colorado, total unknown. I mean, what's Colorado? I don't know. These are all new players. It's a whole different team, basically, that's going to be there. I can see that being a problem going on the road and playing a team you haven't played in a long time. There's a lot of history between the two teams. So you would have some, thoughts that they might be a little bit nervous, I guess, in that scenario. But I think they eke that one out. And then that's when I think it stops. I think that's when they start to get a little dose of reality and come back to earth on this, as far as the season is concerned. They host BYU, always a good team. I know they've had their share of controversy here this offseason. They're going to have a new quarterback, but they're always a good team, have lots of good players all over the field. So I think they lose that game. That's the one that stops the winning streak. Arizona State, very iffy on this one too. What are they? I don't know. They lose Scadaboo. He was so much of an identity of their program and what their team did. They still got a great quarterback, in Levitt. He played very well. I think they'll be good. But it's also that little bit of revenge factor too. Iowa State played like trash in that Big 12 championship game against them. I think that'll be enough motivation, especially at home, to be able to come bounce back and win one. So I think they eke that one out by a field goal. And then on the road at TCU, here's another stumbling block I see. It's just one of those games where it's like you're going to come off probably a high of what I think, I guess, being able to knock off Arizona State, get that revenge. And then you're playing a team that always has good talent. It sounds like they've reloaded pretty good in the portal here during the offseason. They're never a team that's down for long. They did not look good at all last year, but I expect them to be good again. So I think Iowa State stumbles and loses that one, maybe even by 10 points. And then they host Kansas, another one that's a revenge game from last year, played absolutely horrible in Arrowhead against them. And Kansas lost some of their big studs as far as the wideouts are concerned. So I think they're a different team. So I think Iowa State wins that one by a couple scores. And then they go on the road at Oklahoma State. Will be tough. Every road game is tough. But Oklahoma State, failed to live up to any expectations last year. And you lost arguably the best player you've had in the last 5 years at running back. So I don't see them suddenly becoming this great power either. So that's another one where it comes down to the end of the game. And I think Iowa State finds a way to win it. So that's how I'm getting to 10-2. Again, I think one of those is going to go the other way. Either it's that Kansas State, Iowa early. I could probably see one of those being a loss. More than likely, I see them probably at 1-2 at that point. I just don't know which one. And then, you have some scary ones in the middle there. That Arizona State one obviously still is a little bit scary. So you could see kind of a losing streak at that point in the middle of the schedule. But that's where I'm coming from. And maybe you can tell me if I'm crazy.
Well, I mean, the thing with the Big 12 is, like, I guess it can be seen good as bad depending on if you're a fan of a school or not. But it's like the uncertainty is almost like across the board. It's like you could see probably, from 1 through 5 or 6 winning it, or losing, being on the bottom half of the comments. One thing I will say I guess is maybe like plays in Iowa State's favor is the fact that I don't see West Virginia, who seemed to have been sticking your craw a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Baylor on the schedule. Utah, Texas Tech with the big money coming
Yeah.
in.
Yep.
I mean, so that definitely does play a factor. I mean, it's only one game, but that opener is like huge, and the fact that
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned it on the pod, I think it's just last week. It's like that is like kind of an asinine decision by both schools to play that big of a game out of the country that early in the season, because I mean that can go a long ways in like determining the outcome of the rest of the year, because you lose that and either team, you come back and the next week you're flat or you're just not, and you end up 0-2, and then it's like now you're in desperation, whether it be Iowa State or Kansas State. Either way, not saying that they're both going to be that way, but it's possible. I guess there's the BYU one's interesting just for the fact that they had a lot of hype coming in, and then of course all the off the field stuff happened. I just from that game October 25th through the end of the year is just going to be that's a pretty tough. I mean, I know it's not like big names, but that's definitely like, I mean, if you want to circle a 3 or 4 week stretch of your schedule that's kind of outside of that opener, that's going to be a big deal. Would be the ones that I kind of look at there, and then who knows what you're getting with, like, I mean, Colorado, it's just like everything's always off the field. And then you think Arizona has athletes, but then it's like, I mean, the Big 12 is just one of those conferences, like someone's going to surprise you this year. It's just the matter of like picking who it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like the trick. So I guess you hope it's going to be you. Maybe it's a TCU. I mean, in freaking Disney World, they're thinking, oh, freaking Frosty's going to bring him back to the promised land. So who knows where that goes. But yeah, that's the trick of it. It's just like it's so wide open that it's hard to. I honestly feel like better gauging it if that Kansas State game was like flipped with like the Kansas game or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even like in October instead of in August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And again, that game to me is like a coin flip. Like I couldn't tell you right now. Like if I wanted to, like, foot to the fire, somebody told me who's going to win. Like, I honestly don't know. I just, again, I kind of like narrowed it down to like, okay, who's the most important person on the field and who do I think is a little bit better? I think Rocco's a little bit more experienced and a little bit better. So I don't know. That's what sells me on that. And yeah, you're right. There's so many teams. Well, and last year going into it, everybody's like, oh, great, Arizona State's on the schedule. They were picked last in the league. Oh yeah, they kicked everybody's ass. Like,
yeah, that you want to talk about getting rid of the preseason polls? That was at least in that conference, that was a big factor. But then even like you would have thought, like typically, like it almost like Iowa always found a way to beat them until like the last couple of years, and even last year, like to be honest, like Iowa State had like no business winning that game.
Yeah,
but they found a way to, and I mean that's kind of taste your own medicine for Iowa, because they've won how many games have they beaten teams where they have no business winning? So I mean, but that's how it goes. So now you feel, I mean, I would feel a little more. I would definitely think that's a pretty nice, pretty comfortable situation there to take them down. So especially with a new quarterback, and then you got looks like a big noon kickoff type of deal. So
yep, it is.
that's all, you got the Barstool boys in the house now. So who knows what could go on?
No kidding. Yeah. And I should mention too that the number for Iowa State is the same. It's 7.5, which I guess, I mean, yeah, makes sense, I guess, historically. But coming off of last year, you would have thought that maybe they pushed that like a little bit, like 8 at least. I don't know, but
I mean, I guess
I like the over.
Yeah, I mean, it's in your favor. I mean, I would definitely hop on that one. But like I said before, it just seems kind of like that's like the cop out number.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. But yeah, I'm not delusional enough to think that especially like we talked about that last, from October 25th on, there could be a derail. I mean, it could go south in a hurry if you don't get your shit together at some point during 1 week and bounce back. It's kind of a weird schedule. It's not the toughest in the world, but it's got some wrinkles in it that make it difficult, and especially the way it starts. So yeah, that Dublin kickoff, fans are going to be on the edge of their seats because it definitely is important to start the season. All right, that's kind of our look at our two teams here, Iowa State, Nebraska, our season predictions. Like SJ said, we'll put together the graphic and put it up for you as well so that we can eat our own crow if we have to at the end of the season. We're going to put it out there for you, tell you what we think, and see how it plays. And of course, we'll talk about it as the season goes along, as things change and what other, things happen to the teams, whether that be injuries, way things play out in certain games, how that's going to affect them moving forward. But that's kind of our best prognostication, and at least a look at that over under total for you here this season. We'll be doing plenty more picks like this throughout the season, so make sure you're locked into this channel. Like, subscribe, get the notifications. We'll have those picks for you all year long. And then, of course, we'd love it if you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Every day we're covering comes at you each week. We usually have it up for you either Sunday night, early Monday morning, every week in your feed, whatever major platform you like to use, where our host happens to be at Spotify for that. Follow us on Twitter. You see the handles there, at Cherokee CP, at SGM Bets. Give us your thoughts on our thoughts or your team coming in here to this 2025 season. We'd love to hear from you. All right, that's going to do it for our preseason picks here for Iowa State, Nebraska here on Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.